Hello, everyone. This is deeply personal thing that I'm going to share with you. All of us are essentially spiritual beings with lesser or more worldly baggage tagged along our journey. The worldly baggage is merely a fuel for the journey, but there is a temptation to take the fuel as the main thing, while in reality it is just supposed to get burnt in the form of karmic dissipation, uh, taking us to a higher dimension of perception. As I have discussed earlier, uh, kundalini is an auxiliary dimension in our what you say psychosomatic system. It is a shortcut, a kind of gateway. uh, you can even say a portal or a speeding up of evolutionary processes of consciousness. So it's a shortcut, and of course, just like any other shortcut, it has its risks, dangers, possibilities, rewards, agonies, ecstasies, everything. In fact, the fundamental law of cosmos is basically pure potentiality, and Kundalini is a representative uh, of that potentiality, that unbounded field of potentialities. It is the trigger point, it is the gateway, it is the portal to enter the domain. Uh, it's a trigger point to kickstart, to unleash a sudden current of energy, to take your consciousness to a level where you would have normally taken several birth times in natural sequence of karmic resolution, born of all the entanglements and their resultant pain and suffering. There is a set of controllables and uncontrollables in one's life. As far as I am concerned, I tried my level best to succeed just in normal worldly terms, like anyone around. But somehow the uncontrollables at a level of at an operational level of existence beyond my efforts would always push me back to square one. I would just find myself, standing at the point where I had started from, despite best of my efforts. And as you can imagine, that would give one a lots of pain and suffering, and you question the basics that operate the world around you, and before you realize you are into a spiritual dimension. And I think that's how it happens with most of us who take onto this path. I never had a guide in physical form on the spiritual path. Involuntarily, I did yogic practices on the basis of what I read in the books. And one of the practices almost hammered the base chakra, the Muladhara, and I did it continuously. Or I would say I was forced to do it continuously for almost a decade. And as I would realize it later, it amounted to forcibly prodding at the snake in its soul, that is, Kundalini resting in its natural state. And the energy, obviously, as per the laws of input and output, it moved. And my organic structure wasn't prepared for this sudden onslaught of energy. And as can be expected, it gave many nightmares, which manifested at all levels, at the level of thoughts, at the level of emotions, at the level of body. And it left me in a dark night of the soul, literally, one can say. It was a but it was a karmic leap, uh, a big jump. And all alone to fend for myself, it was uh, the toughest phase of my life. There was so much of agony, pain, fear, phobia, so many challenges at many levels. And I was running all around to clutch at any straw for salvation. I went on pilgrimages. I roamed in seclusion in forests. I went to ashrams. I fell at the feet of many holy men. Uh, all this just to save myself from getting sucked into the void of darkness, to find some meaning in life, to find some purpose behind all this apparently meaningless chaos, spinning around me. And then religious differentials melted. I would just enter a gurudwara or a masjid, or a church, a temple, or a Buddhist monastery, uh, with the same reverence and faith. Uh, you can say I was looking for anything as long as it just would save me from darkness. And I tried to be an unquestioning bhakt of various deities. I tried and tested yoga, mantra sadhana, pranayam, whatever that presented itself on the way. And because the blizzard of energy, it was making me dance to its tunes like a puppet, and it required tremendous amount of activity at many levels. And I was just running around to seek avenues to dissipate this energy. Then about 6 or 7 years back, I took to worship Lord Hanuman. uh, I kept Tuesday fast and read Hanuman Chalisa from a booklet, because I just could not chant it from my memory only. So at that time, I was visiting Osho's Murthal ashram, where Sadhguru Osho Shalendra, who happens to be Bhagwan Osho's real brother, he gave Mala Diksha and held satsangs and sermons. So once I was lucky when he put his blessing hand on my head. And at the same time, recently I had been to Dharamshala and was lucky enough to be blessed by His Holiness Dalai Lama. So that was very lucky time period for me, and it triggered, further add-ons to the blizzard of energy. I have no other explanation other than to take it as a case of Sakti path. It triggered, launched experiences that would just shake the theoretical uh, foundations of my knowledge. And shortly after his blessing, I was reading Hanuman Chalisa on the day of my Tuesday fasting from a booklet, and as usual, incense was burning, and there was this butter oil lamp and offerings placed in front of Lord Hanuman's idol. Then it happened. An intense external force uh, gripped me very tight. I was in perfect awareness uh, about the happenings, but the body was under the control of forces which I cannot attribute to my voluntary conscious mind. So it was happening to me, and I was just watching it. I was twisted and turned in very tough yogic postures, which I just cannot even think of performing in normal condition. It was like a powerful hand was twisting and turning me and gripping me tightly and forcing me to perform the toughest postures. And I was helpless. It was all going on. I was aware of everything, but I was helpless. Uh, it was happening by itself, you can say, and these were no, you can say, weird contortions. There was a symmetry. There was a sort of precision. It would complete a cycle, and the Hanuman idol was put in a little house temple that has a sharp stone ledge. So during one of the postures, I was twisted in a lotus posture, and then my forehead started moving towards the sharp stone edge and of the tiny temple. But the slow descent to the edge was so precise that my eyebrow, it drew a line to one side over the stone edge, and the pressure was very, very, very hard, and it was a very thin line of movement for the eyebrow across over the edge of that stone. And but it went very, very precisely, just a millimeter down, and it would have injured my eye because the force was quite high. But divine synchronicity, it knows more than our fears. The same happened with the other bro on the other side, and there were many such moments for around 45 minutes or so. And when the force left me involuntary control of my body, my spine got so totally drawn and straight that I felt like a wooden plank. And then the sweet aftermaths of the divine exercise performed on me by the higher forces, I got a prasad which I can never ever forget in my entire life. I was singing Hanuman Chalisa all by myself. Suddenly, I happened to memorize it, and I hadn't been able to memorize it in a year of chanting from the booklet, and now it was flowing freely, like prasada from the great Lord. After that, for almost 6 months, I would feel involuntary mudras and body movements that would just play with me as if I was a lifeless puppet. And maybe all this happens to make us realize that we aren't what we think ourselves to be, or maybe to trace our ego that you aren't solely in control of everything around you. Primarily, it is to convince you that there are higher dimensions of existence. At the body's level, maybe it is to remove the psychic entanglement in our karmic structure. And I know I have lots of karmic entanglements from the past to resolve, and that is why the rise of energy pose such challenges. And the journey continues, my dear fellow travelers on the path. And as the brain adjusts to this new surge, I hear different type of sounds. The ones that you must have just read about in the case of Kundalini awakening, the different kind of sounds that one hears in the head or in the ears. I can credibly say that all this is true because I have been hearing it for the last many years. I heard buzzing bees and tinkling bells and flute and sharp chin chin and rumbling of clouds. Many types of sounds, and this is the divine music of high vibrational frequencies. Nothing mythological or miraculous or superstitious about it. Just your perception level goes to a platform where you can just feel those high vibrational energies, and they say meditating on them can take a sadhak in still higher orbits. But I am a common man. I have my responsibilities and my worldly duties to fulfill to resolve all karmic issues. So I travel on the path, uh, balancing my journey between worldly needs and my uh, the needs of my soul. And I am open to guidance from all corners. It always arrives from different corners, and I am always thankful and feel blessed to have guidance from any corner, be it a book, be it satsang held by somebody online. It's all divine, mediums to guide fellow travelers. And presently, I have a hunch that His Holiness Mahavtar Babaji is guiding me on the path, and I feel privileged, I feel blessed. I don't know the truth, uh, but that's how it is. It's my truth, and I'm happy with it. And happy be your journey on the path. Stay blessed.